He's dying! He's dying, bro!
Got me with the knife. My stomach was open and my intestines were in my hands.
Nick is a very peaceful person.
100%, I'm going to die today.
Self-defense or murder? There's two sides to every story. So who will the jury believe in this one? Plus, we're breaking down the suspicious disappearance of a preacher's wife and her friend. And the search continues this morning for Sebastian Rogers. And his dad is joining us on the show this morning live. It's all coming up next for you, plus much more right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning to you, my friends. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant. Here on this program, it's just like what happens in an actual trial. We get you all primed and ready to go to hear the case evidence. With the cases we're covering both at trial, on Court TV Live, and just in the ones that are making headlines and have us talking in the world of true crime. Right now, why don't you go ahead and grab a cup of coffee, because it's time for my opening statement. Pretty soon, the prophet goes on trial. Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell will be facing homicide charges for the deaths of his first wife, Tammy, and his second wife, the goddess's kids, JJ and Tylee. And I'm wondering whether the goddess will try to come in and save the prophet. Hear me out. This is what I'm wondering. Will Lori be a witness for Chad? I mean, stranger things have happened, right? And this case is about as strange as it gets. I think if the prophet requests the goddess's testimony, she would jump at the chance to do it. Or should I say portal at the chance, not jump. If you know, you know, right? Yeah, what a bunch of hogwash that was. Their relationship nauseates me. The storm, yuck, make me lose my breakfast. I think it's quite possible that the goddess will take the stand as a defense witness to try to defend her husband. I mean, this guy needs some serious legal help in this trial. He's facing the death penalty if he's convicted. Lori lucked out, we know, because prosecutors screwed up. She had excellent attorneys who flagged their discovery violation, and that the judge took the death penalty off the table for her. But it is a totally different situation for Chad. I'll close by saying this. I think it's quite fitting that the prophet's trial is happening in this month of April, because April is Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. That's why I'm wearing dark blue today, because one of the best things that I get to do here on this show is to advocate for important things like the prevention of child abuse. I have the privilege of doing advocacy journalism here. So as we go forward, let's remember that this case involves the murders of two children, two innocent, precious children, and one unsuspecting, innocent wife who trusted and loved her husband. It's all horrible. All the homicides are horrible here. But there's just something about child homicides that just hits home differently. And if the prophet did what the state of Idaho alleges that he did to his wife and to those innocent children, then the prophet better pray that God has mercy on his soul, because that jury probably won't. That's my opening statement on this Thursday morning. Let me know if you like it, my friends. Right now, it's time for what's on your daily docket.
It just didn't feel real. It was just a lot of shock. And from there, I was walking around the river asking for help, just asking somebody to help me. I told Q that I felt like I was dying because I just was losing, I was losing so much blood. And every time I'd walk, I just felt like I was getting weaker and weaker.
All right, now here's a look at some of the cases we're following for you today on Court TV. In Wisconsin, testimony resumes at 9 a.m. in the Apple River Stabbings trial. Also in Wisconsin, Jesse Vang is set to appear in court at noon for a preliminary hearing on the charges he's facing over the disappearance of 3-year-old Elijah Vu. That precious child is still missing this morning. And in Idaho, it's day number 4 of jury selection for the guy I was just talking about, the prophet. Doomsday Prophet Chad Daybell. That starts up at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Updates on that one throughout the day. Right now, let's turn to the Apple River Stabbings case, where the jury is being tasked with determining the truth as they hear vastly different versions of what occurred that day.
And when you first saw Mr. Miu, what was he doing?
He was just looking in the water with some snorkeling gear. He said, you're snorkeling in some pretty short water, like, what are you looking for? He responded with looking for little girls or something like that.
Did you have any concerns that day with Mr. Miu getting in his snorkeling gear and snorkeling down by these other groups?
I didn't want to think, anyone to think that he was up to no good.
Sure.
He was looking for a phone.
Did you see him talking to two women? Did you see anything that may have happened between him and the two women?
No.
I went again to turn back and get his side of the story, and that's when he punched Madison in the face.
After the blonde woman was punched, what happened next? Did someone...
I believe her friends tried to come to her rescue and push Mr. Miu to the ground and hit him.
What happened next?
He got up, swinging his knife and stabbing everyone.
Let's talk about this case some more. This is a homicide case, and not every homicide is a murder, so that's important to understand. The question here is whether it was a murder, an illegal homicide, or whether it was a justifiable homicide, one that is allowed by law. And when you hear self-defense, that's what to think about, justifiable homicide. We have 2 outstanding guests joining us this morning to talk about it. I want to bring them in now. Attorney and law professor Dante Mills is with us. Also with us, psychologist and author Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Good morning to you both. Dr. Sue, I'd like to begin with you, if I may, please. This was a traumatic event for everyone involved. I've said many times how there just are no winners in this case, that everybody involved, their lives are changed forever. And we know that what's really going to come down to the jury's decision is whether or not these witnesses are reliable, credible, their memories play into that. I want to pick your brain, please, about trauma and how trauma can potentially affect the reliability of a witness's memory in a trial.
Okay, great question. Good morning, everyone. When you are in trauma, what begins to happen inside of you is a different reaction if you were not in trauma. For example, your brain is functioning differently. You go into a fight or flight kind of reaction because either you're withdrawing because you're scared or you're ready to fight because your adrenaline is pumping. And I think that's what happened here. Both of them seem to be at fault here, both sides. But the difference is that this man had a weapon and then used the weapon to hurt these kids. So that's where it's confusing about the self-defense. But they can argue that he went into some kind of a trauma reaction where his brain reacted differently because he was feeling threatened.
This is really fascinating, Dr. Sue. Thank you for that. I want to play the video. I know many of our loyal viewers have seen it. I've seen it many times. For anyone just joining the program, just a warning, it is graphic. It can be upsetting. Let's take a look at a small portion of it together now. So we know that this video doesn't give us the whole story. It's shot from one person's vantage point. It doesn't capture every single thing. But with what it does capture, attorney and Professor Dante Mills, want to go to you on this, please. Looking at this case as objectively as possible, in your opinion, who does the video help more?
It's tough because the video shows the incident, but it doesn't show the first moment of contact. And that's really what this is going to come down to. I understand that both sides are trying to control the narrative and get out their story. You're hearing from the prosecution how traumatic it was after the stabbings and the people walking around, and it's very traumatic. You're hearing from the defendant how antagonizing the group was to him. But I think it's all going to come down to who was first to act, who was the first one to assault the other. And if the defendant was the first to throw that punch, to hit that female, then you can't turn around and say it's self-defense, because what are you defending yourself against? There was a lot of argument. There were things said from both sides that shouldn't have been said. There were escalation. But the court and the jury's going to be told to look at who was the first person to act. And the video, unfortunately, it misses that moment. Was it when he went to punch the female? Was he touched or hit before then? That's really what this moment is what this case is gonna come down to, that moment, and it's not shown on video. So the video is good. It shows the entire scenario, but whoever was first to act, first to throw that punch or assault the other person, that's what it's going to come down to, and that's not shown, unfortunately.
Right, you hit the nail on the head, Dante. That's really a big problem here. And for our viewers, I just want to emphasize this point again that Dante's making with the additional detail of this witness chose not to be on camera. So none of us got to see her testimony. She did testify. She did say she was hit. She couldn't remember if she was punched, slapped, which cheek it was. She said she gets her cheeks mixed up. So for us to not have even seen it, this is hard for even us watching objectively. So Dante, really appreciate that point. Dr. Sue, I want to go back to another point. You made an excellent one. You said fight or flight happens, when someone gets in a situation like the one that Nicolae Miu was in. I have a clip from A.J. Martin. He is the young man who was disemboweled in this incident. He got up yesterday, he showed the jury his scar. It was quite a moment. And here he tells the jury how he was trying to break up the fight. He wasn't trying to go at Nicolae Miu. So let's take a look at a clip from him, and then I'll come to you on the other side, Dr. Sue.
My intention was to go over there and try and break it up. I saw him in the water and I saw people going around him, so I went to push his shoulder in the front, but ultimately didn't. But I was going to try and just get him to stay down for another second and then tell everyone to back up, and then we could have figured out what was going on. But as I reached down to push him in the shoulders, he reached up and I guess, I don't know if you call it a stab, but got me with the knife.
Dr. Sue, I'm wondering, does this testimony help support the defendant's position that he might have been in that fight mode still, even with someone who was not trying to do him harm?
It could help, but I want you to listen to what this young man has said. He said that he was trying to stop whatever he thought was going to happen. So, that is a good thing that he was trying to do. Again, Julie, for me, it's that he had a knife. And so that, I think, is going to be the determining factor here in terms if he is guilty or not. He can claim self-defense, but he didn't use his hands to stop what was going on here, Julie. He used a pocket knife, it seems, and that's where it's crossing the line. If this was two people just fighting with their hands, we'd have a very different story here.
Dante, I want to go back to you on something, please. Really tapping into all of the many years of experience you have doing criminal defense work. Would you speak to something here? Self-defense cases are ugly. Lethal, are they not? I think that's one thing I don't want to get lost here, that when we do have self-defense, I mean, it can be really, really nasty, can't it?
Yes, it can. And I'll say this, just so legally we all understand the standard and what you're looking at. So with self-defense, once it's determined that you are in danger, you can respond. Now, most times the court is going to look at who was first to act. But once that act happens, your response is appropriate. And we look at, even with police shootings, things like that, once you're justified in shooting that first bullet, you can shoot as many as you possibly can. So that's the case with self-defense. If you feel like your life is in danger, you're threatened, there's this group of people, you're one man against a group of people. If he's justified in defending himself, then he can go to the length of stabbing people. He can. That opens up the bag. And it make it ugly because a lot of people did get stabbed. But if he's justified in acting, then his full response is justified. But we have to look at, was his actions justified, or was he first to act, which caused the situation to escalate? Because if you escalate it, you then can't turn around and say, oh, I was responding in self-defense when they responded back by hitting me when I chose to hit first.
Professor Mills, Dr. Seuth, thank you both so much. Before we head to break, we're learning more this morning about the threatening phone calls that James Crumbley made from jail. The comments directed at the Oakland County prosecutor, Karen McDonald. This was done over a 2-year period, and we have a few excerpts for you, and I'm going to not say the expletives. Yeah, Karen McDonald, you're going down. Go ahead, record this call. Send it to Karen McDonald. Tell her how James Crumbley is going to take her down. There will be retribution, believe me. Well, she's going to be sucking on a hot rock down in hell soon. I am on a rampage, Karen. Yes, Karen McDonald, yours is going down, and you better be scared. This is according to the prosecution's sentencing memo filed on Wednesday. The state is expected to use those phone conversations to push for a stiffer penalty for him. Remember, the Crumbley parents still need to be sentenced. And guess what, my friends? It's happening on Tuesday. Mark your calendars. Tuesday, they get their punishments for that high school shooting their son carried out, in which 4 beautiful children were killed. Court TV will carry that sentencing live. And when we come back here on Opening Statements, we'll have the latest for you on the mysterious disappearance of a preacher's wife and her friend. And we're speaking with Sebastian Rogers' father live this morning as the search for his missing son continues.
We are underway in the trial of doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Morgan, I could never come up with this.
His wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial.
Welcome back. And now for what's trending in true crime. Police in Oklahoma are searching for 2 missing women, and they now are suspecting foul play based on their search of the vehicle. According to authorities, 27-year-old Veronica Butler and 39-year-old Jillian Kelly were set to pick up their kids, but they never made it to the pickup location. Their vehicle was then found abandoned along a highway. A Facebook post from a church in Nebraska described Jillian Kelly as the wife of its new minister. In that same post, the church said that a gathering was held on Sunday for the missing women. Many details still remain unanswered this morning, but our question to our power panel is, what is the most suspicious part of the disappearances of these women? I've got great guests standing by. Let's bring them all in now. Still with me, trial attorney and law professor Dante Mills, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Michael J. Brown, and former special agent and supervisor with the Department of Homeland Security, Dr. Jason Piccolo. Good morning to you all. Dr. Jason, you're my investigator. I want to start with you on this, please. What's the most suspicious thing to you about this?
They're missing out of thin air, it seems. What is most suspicious is that we don't have any suspects right now, at least not in the public eye. Now, does the police have suspects? Perhaps, but yeah, out right in the middle of thin air.
Yeah, no clues. I mean, probably one of the biggest developments just happened overnight. This is the first time we're reporting it on Court TV that foul play is suspected here. Before last night, that had not been the case with law enforcement, but now this doesn't look good. Dante Mills, let me go to you next, please. What to you is the most suspicious thing here?
when you look at the fact that there's 2 people that are missing, so even with foul play or when things happen, whether it's domestic or when you have situations where someone comes up missing, someone is harmed, it's usually an individual that someone has some kind of gripe against, whether it's a spouse, that is fed up with their spouse, or someone has something out for a person, then that person is impacted. Here you have 2 people. So you wonder, is this a situation where they happen to be together when someone was attacking one of them and the other was wrong place, wrong time? Were they connected somehow where they were in some kind of connection where whoever was mad at one was mad at both? I think that's the most interesting thing, that you have 2 people who seemingly wouldn't do something to the same person. So why are they both missing? And what's the case with 2 people being missing at the same time?
Yeah, I really appreciate that point, Dante. It's kind of like, who's the target? Are they both targets here? That's what really strikes me as odd as well. Last but not least, Michael J. Brown, your thoughts on this, please.
Good morning, Julie. Good morning, everybody. It's just missing without a trace. And what's odd about this is it could be a total act of random violence, but you would expect some evidence of a struggle, some blood. The car was damaged. You would expect some evidence that there was some type of struggle. And then you would expect some evidence of where they went, even if they were kidnapped or apprehended. And from what we hear in the news, at least, and they could be withholding evidence for their own sake, for the investigation's sake, we don't have anything. And it really is a missing without a trace type of situation at this point.
Right, you're right, Michael. Thank you for that. We will leave it there for now and report any new updates as we turn to some other big trending news. One of television's favorite lawyers is now sitting in the center of her own criminal investigation.
The police didn't find any files pertaining to you.
Oh, man. What am I going to do?
You're going to get yourself another lawyer, another stay. Another year or 2 will go by, which was the whole point of having Felder killed.
Many of you know and love Angie Harmon for bringing criminals to justice in her role as ADA Abby Carmichael on Law & Order. Well, on Monday, Harmon revealed that an Instacart delivery man shot and killed her family's dog over the weekend. This happened outside of her home in Charlotte, North Carolina. And in a lengthy message she posted to her Instagram, Harmon claims that the man used a different name and wasn't arrested after he claimed self-defense with the dog. Now, Harmon went on to say in that Instagram message, quote, "The delivery man shot our dog with my daughters and myself at home and just kept saying, yeah, I shot your dog. Yeah, I did. We are completely traumatized and beyond devastated at the loss of our beloved boy and family member." Now, Instacart has suspended the shopper due to zero tolerance for violence. Is his claim of self-defense a convenient defense? Let's talk about it with our power panel. Michael J. Brown, I'd love to start with you this time. Your thoughts, please.
Well, Julie, these cases, we don't have any evidence because apparently the ring bell wasn't recording. So we don't know if he was actually threatened. He could have been. He could have been in a situation where he believed this dog, although it looks so innocent and so gentle. But in that situation, he could have been fearing for his safety and his life, and it could have been an extremely aggressive dog. And keep in mind, there was a second dog that could also have been acting very aggressive. It was one shot, so that does support his position. Without more, it's really difficult to judge this case, and it's important not to rush to judgment on a case like this.
Sure. Michael, thank you for that. Dante Mills, to you next, please. What do you think about this defense? Is it a convenient one with no Ring doorbell video, as Michael pointed out?
It may be convenient, but it also makes sense that, the claim is I was attacked by dogs. We handle dog bite cases where people are hurt and extremely hurt by dog bites. And when you have those cases, what you look at is, did that dog have a propensity for violence? Is there any other reports of that dog attacking anyone else? I'm sure that's what investigators are going to be looking at here. They're going to be asking, people in the neighborhood who've interacted with that dog, family members, if that dog has ever attacked anyone before. And if it has, that shows one time is enough to show propensity of violence. And then it can be assumed that it attacked this Instacart delivery driver. And if that driver was under attack, he had the right to defend himself. He did fire one shot. It wasn't like he went off and fired multiple rounds on both dogs. And you would assume he just wasn't driving around looking for a dog to shoot. So it had to be kind of instigated or something had to happen in order for his response.
Dante, thank you for that. Last but not least, Dr. Jason Piccolo, you're our investigator on the panel. Tell me what goes into an investigation like this. Here you have a famous celebrity who lost a dog, a lot of animal lovers out there, and we know law enforcement is going to treat everybody the same way. I'm not saying she should be treated any differently, but there's a lot of people looking at this case, making sure the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. What are the steps investigators are going to take in assessing whether or not this was justifiable in shooting that dog?
Now, I would take statements from everybody, anybody and anybody who could be a witness, but I would also backtrack and take a look at the suspect's background. Has he ever had a propensity for violence with the use of a firearm? Has he used a firearm before in brandishing or any other aspects of that firearm? And then I would take his statement and then I would push it from there to see if that brings me to any other types of instances where he had contact like this before.
Right, Dr. Jason. I want to know if this guy had any injuries. Did he have bite marks? Was his clothing torn? Anything like that to indicate there was actually an attack, versus just a dog maybe running towards him that might want to just play. My heart breaks for Angie Harmon. I have to say that I know many of you at home are animal lovers. Yours does too. We will watch this one closely, see if any criminal charges happen or any civil lawsuits filed. We'll leave that discussion for you wonderful attorneys another day. Got to say goodbye and thank you to Dante Mills for being with us this morning, and Dr. Jason Piccolo as well. Michael J. Brown's coming along with us for tipping the scales. After this break, my friends, we have something very special coming up. Take a look.
He needs to call 911. And if somebody has him, you need to give him back. He's my son. And he doesn't belong to nobody, but damn it, he's mine.
Sebastian Rogers' father, Seth, is joining us live as we're getting the very latest on the search for his 15-year-old missing son. And we're breaking down the shocking arraignment of a mother accused of murdering her 5-year-old child and stuffing him in a suitcase.
There is no evidence to support foul play is involved in the disappearance of Sebastian.
But at this point, you don't rule it out?
We're not ruling anything out.
Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. It has been more than a month and still no sign of Sebastian Rogers. The 15-year-old disappeared in the middle of the night on February 25th. His mother was the last person to see him and says that he left the house without any shoes on and just a flashlight. So where is he? Searchers continue looking for Sebastian, and this morning we have a very special guest joining us on the program, Sebastian Rogers' biological father, Seth Rogers. Seth, good morning to you, and might I just start by both saying thank you and just that my heart and the hearts of all of our wonderful viewers really go out to you. The agony that you're going through, I can't even imagine. I've seen you do some interviews, and I've been so amazed at how resilient you are, and you've talked about how nothing is going to make you give up hope. Tell us, please, where's that drive coming from?
My son. He's my life. He's my heart. He's not here, and I'm not complete unless I have him. So it's the drive to be whole again.
You know, I applaud you for holding out hope, being so resilient, being positive, and who knows what can happen with this investigation, and any day could be the day Sebastian comes home. From your perspective, Seth, how satisfied are you with the investigation being done by TBI?
My son's not here. They have no evidence. They haven't. Sumner County is the one that's like doing it. TBI is assisting. I've asked TBI to take it over. They haven't yet. there's just things that I don't think have been done.
What would you like to be done, Seth, that hasn't been?
I have a list of stuff, but I don't know if they've done it or not. I mean, there's been questions that have been asked and things that have been answered. It's really hard to have evidence if certain protocols aren't being followed. You have to start back over from day one.
You know, going back to day one, so Sebastian goes to sleep the evening of February 25th. It's on the morning of the 26th that your ex-wife finds that he's not in his bedroom. She is the only one said to be home, and Sebastian could have vanished sometime in the hours from when she last saw him go to sleep and from the time she opened the door. There's a window there overnight. Your best guess, Seth, based on how well you know your son, what do you think happened to Sebastian?
He's not the type to put on, he's not the type to leave the house without putting on socks and shoes. As for running away or leaving, he didn't take his backpack. He didn't take his switch. He didn't take his phone. I mean, just doesn't make sense. And he's not one to wander. He's never eloped before.
Are you leaning towards a potential kidnapping?
Anything is speculation at this point in time, because there is no, as they have said, evidence that leads towards foul play. But there's things that just don't add up. His mother was the last one to see him. She's responsible for this, either through negligence at the bare minimum.
Has she been a good mother to Sebastian?
Not in my opinion. This is the third time that there's been an issue. You know, my son's come up missing now under her watch. Time before that, her and Chris let my son get molested and raped in their apartment. And the time before that, I did a well care check because she let a known sex offender who, yes, did their 9 years in prison, but she left my son around that person. You don't do that. If you're a parent, you don't do that. You're supposed to protect your kid. You don't put them in where they can get in any type of harm's way.
Seth, you said something very upsetting, very shocking, and I just want to go back just a moment. You said that your wife allowed your son, Sebastian, your ex-wife, I should say, your ex-wife allowed Sebastian to be in a situation where he was molested and raped?
In California. And Chris in her apartment. They let a child who was 5 years older than my son play with my son and didn't bother to check on him there neither. And he lost his innocence because of it.
Seth, I'm so sorry to hear this. I'm so sorry to hear this. No child should be subjected to any kind of abuse whatsoever. Sexual abuse can be especially traumatic for a young child. Is this something that Sebastian has struggled with since then?
Yeah, I finally was able to actually start getting him therapy for it last year. The fact is that they weren't doing the correct they weren't doing the correct thing, clearing California. And it's just last year finally getting him help because he's a victim. And now I'm finding out not only was, he was a victim of that, he's a victim of not getting the help he needs. And, I've listened to some of their podcasts where they make fun of him, make fun of his dancing. Chris obviously has this thing about corporal discipline with him. And it's just, it's not good.
Seth, I'm so sorry.
I need to find my son.
Right.
And he's going to need extensive therapy now to put him back on the right track.
Yes. Was Sebastian the one who told you about the sexual abuse that had happened?
His mother did, and my son did. This happened in California, so Sheriff's Department, CPS was involved. Sheriff's Department was involved there. They wouldn't give me the kid's name, his last name. But at least the only thing I was able to do there was put the detective over that case in contact with the school psychologist so that at least they could protect the other children from this child.
Right. So no juvenile proceedings commenced or anything like that, Seth, with this child? He wasn't brought to juvenile court?
Not in California. No, in California, kids 13, they're like, he's too young to prosecute. And they wouldn't do anything about the parents either.
Seth, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. My heart breaks for you for so many reasons, and this is just one more of those reasons. Tell me, please, Seth, what else do you want the public to know as people all over are hoping and praying for your son Sebastian's safe return?
That I'm just looking for him. I need people to help. I'm just one person. I can do a lot, but I can't do everything. And I have to find him.
Absolutely. You have to find him. And we will continue doing everything we can here at Court TV to help you find him, putting his picture out there, video, talking about him, and hopefully he is somewhere where he can be brought home safe to you soon. Seth Rogers, thank you so much for this talk. Thank you for sharing all of those things. I know it's not easy. Every good wish as you hopefully bring Sebastian home safe soon.
Thank you.
When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
Ms. Anderson, for the record, would you state your full name, please?
Yes, I am Princess Kalikia Hatansu Papa II, representing the entity Dejon Anderson.
The entity, Dejon Anderson, yeah. This woman is accused of killing her child, and she wants to represent herself. Just wait till you hear the outlandish claims that she makes before the judge.
We are underway in the trial of doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Morgan, I can never come up with this.
His wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial.
Now for what's tipping the scales of justice as the mother of a 5-year-old boy found dead inside of a suitcase appeared in court for the first time on Tuesday. Dejon Anderson is her name. She's accused of murdering her son Cairo back in 2022 and putting his body in a suitcase in Indiana. She then went on the run for nearly 2 years, according to police, finally captured in California last month. She had her arraignment this week, and it was far from typical. As she told the judge, she wants to represent herself. She also made some really wild claims. Take a look.
Ms. Anderson, you just made an objection.
Yes.
State the basis of your objection.
The basis of my objection is the fact that I am not a fugitive. I have been under NSA surveillance for the past 8 months, and how can that qualify me as a fugitive on the run when I've also had a detail from Space Force that was following my every move? When I contacted...
All right. Let me tell you, that is not a valid legal objection. If you want to represent yourself, you're going to have to learn the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure, because if you conduct yourself like this and make these types of objections, you have no chance in the world, lady.
Judge is right. So if this woman represents herself at trial, how might that tip the scales of justice for her? Let's bring in our guest, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Michael J. Brown. Michael, your thoughts watching this woman?
Yeah, Julie, obviously my initial inclination is there has to be some type of mental disease or defect. Initially, the judge is going to have to deal with a competency issue just for the purposes of understanding the charges against her and being able to assist in her defense. And especially important when, if she's going to represent herself, that's so important. So initially, there's going to have to what we call a 730 exam in New York State. And I'm sure Indiana has the equivalent where they have to make sure she's competent to stand trial.
Exactly, Michael. She may not even get to the point of trial, right? I'm sure you were thinking that. I was too when I saw this. Clearly seems that she's not well, and the judge is doing a fine job handling the situation, getting her through the initial arraignment to the proper place. I've got another clip here where she's talking about how she has a master's degree. Let's take a look.
You are required to conduct yourself as a lawyer to be able to voir dire the potential jurors, to abide by the rules of evidence, to abide by the rules of procedure.
I do understand. I have a master's in history.
That doesn't give you a law degree, though.
But I do understand how to read procedures.
All right. All right. Just because you represent yourself doesn't ensure yourself of a good lawyer, you know.
Michael J. Brown, what'd you think of that?
So obviously here she's trying to say she's educated, she's intelligent, and she can represent herself. But one thing has nothing to do with the other. The worst thing you can do is represent yourself. I think they're going to need to determine if she's competent in the sense that she understands the nature of the charges and she can adequately assist in her defense. And at least from the viewing of this arraignment, it appears she talked about NASA spaceships and being a sovereign citizen. It's so complex, and I think it's clear in its face that she's not competent at this point in time. But they'll have to undergo a psychiatric evaluation to determine that.
Right, most definitely, Michael. You know, police said that the little boy, 5 years old, didn't have any signs of trauma on his body, but that the autopsy showed that the cause of death was an electrolyte imbalance, likely from dehydration. So your thoughts on a defense here? You know, does anything come to mind when you think of that and what may be the criminal defense at the trial?
Right off the bat, I agree with you, Julie. You hit the nail on the head in the sense that off the bat, I thought about an extreme emotional disturbance in our state or even an insanity defense. And I'm sure Indiana has the equivalent. So there's a lot of things here that tend to lead to that. You hit one of the nails on the head in the sense of dehydration. So there's no beating or stabbing or strangling. She simply neglected the child and wouldn't hydrate him. There's also things that I read that she wanted an exorcism performed. She posted some ritual things on social media. And then you have a child who's actually stuffed in a suitcase. Horrific. But I think it all tends to support some type of defense of a mental disease or defect or even that insanity defense.
Right. So well said, Michael J. Brown. I think you were spot on all of this as per usual. We'll continue following Dejon Anderson's case as she did get through that arraignment, and I'm sure she's headed to the doctor, as you said, to get that psychological evaluation, and we'll see what comes next for her.